What's up, guys? It's James Carino again, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It's Coding with James. Last video I was able to upload was the coding challenge, longest palindromic substring. It's one of the most common interview questions. I believe it was a medium difficulty one. How I showed it is the brute force method, where I gave you an O of n cubed. Com complexity, and in the next videos, in the succeeding videos, I'm going to be showing you guys a more efficient method, memory wise as well. So yeah, I appreciate you guys subscribing, viewing my channel. If you have any questions, suggestions, comments, objections, please feel free to email me and let me know. I'm always open to any critics, anything that would make me better. So today we're going to be tackling an easy LeetCode question. I'm choosing this because this is actually one of the most easy, yet it could be very confusing LeetCode interview questions, right? So given a sorted array nums, remove the duplicates in place such that each element appears only once and returns the new length. Do not allocate extra space for another array. You must do this by modifying the input array in place with O of 1 extra memory. So it's going to return an integer where it's going to be the length. Note that input array is passed in by reference. So if we're given this, we're going to return to function should return length 2, first two elements of nums being 1 and 2 respectively. Doesn't matter what you leave beyond return length. It's because we're passing in the input array by reference, and constraints nums is sorted in ascending order. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you guys how I would tackle this, and let's head on to LucidChart, where I will be able to show you guys how I would go about this problem, right? So in this case, let's change this because it said it's in ascending order. So let's do 14 and then 14. Yeah. Okay. Actually, no, let's actually make it the same as 1, 1, 2. That way you guys could see it better. 1, 1, 2. And let's just take this guy out right here. So the length of this new array, this is array nums right here, right? So we're going to start with, rather than doing a for loop, we start with 0, right? Rather than starting with 0, rather than starting here, we start with the first index. We're going to assume that there's at least one element. So we're going to do an if statement saying, okay, if nums.length is equal to 0, then we're just going to return 0, right? Else, there's at least one element, and that element, the first element, is going to be unique. We're going to assume this, right? And we're going to assume that it's in ascending order. Okay, so we're going to start at flag index, right? I'm going to name it flag index, and we're going to start at index 1. In this case, when we start at index 1, we say final length is equal to 1. As I said, because if it's 0, then we're going to return 0. So at least there's at least 1. And we're going to iterate through the whole array using a for loop, using int I equals 0, I less than the length, which is length 3. So we're going to head on to at least the second index, right? So in this case, we're going to say, okay, if int I, in this first iteration, I equals 1, right? Index I equals 1. Let's just index I is equal to 1, right? Index I is equal to 1. We're going to compare it with the previous one, because we're assuming that the first index is unique. So we're going to say, okay, let's check if nums at I, which is 1, is not equal to I minus 1, we're going to store it at int flag index 1. Else, we're going to move the index. So in this case, in this example, index 1 is actually equal to the first index, which we said was unique. So in this case, we're not going to store anything in flag index 1. So we're not going to iterate flag index 1. Flag index 1 is still going to stay at 1. So we move this iterator, we're going to move index, right? We're going to move index, and we're going to move index right here at index 2. Because either way, we're going to iterate through the for loop, right? So now index is equal to 2. So we're moving I here, and we're moving I minus 1 here, right? We're moving I minus 1 here. Now we're going to say, okay, and we're going to keep flag index 1, all right? Just bear with me here. There's a reason that we're keeping it at 1 and we're not iterating it. It's because if this is not equal to this index, right, which it is not equal to, is not equal to 1, right? So nums at I is not, if it's not equal to nums at I minus 1, right, it means this index is actually unique, right? Because in the last iteration, we found out that this index, which was the previous I, was not unique from the first index, index 0. So in this case, this index where we're at I is unique from the last index. Since it's unique from the last index, we're going to store the value inside I into nums flag index 1, right? So whatever is in index 2, which is 2, we're going to store it at index 1. So this is going to be overridden, and this is going to replace that value at index 1. Now final length is going to iterate up, and flag index is going to be equal to 2. But in this case, we're done with the for loop because now we're at index 2, and that's less than 3. So the final array that we're going to be having will have 1 and 2 in its values, and we're going to be returning final length, right? So let's code that up right here. So as we said, length is equal to 0. Okay, so if nums.length is equal to 0, we return 0. Else, we're going to assume that there is at least one unique element at index 0. So we're going to say int flag index, and we're going to set it equal to 1. As I said, we're going to start the comparison at index 1, and we're going to compare index 1 with the previous one, right? And we're going to say, okay, int final length is equal to 1, right? Because we said, as I'm mentioning again, there's at least one element, right? So now we're going to do a for loop for int I equals equals to 1, right? Because we're going to be comparing it with the previous one. I less than nums.length I plus plus. Okay, now we're going to say if nums at I is not equal to the previous one, to the previous value in the previous index, right? If this index is unique from the first index, from index 0, in this first iteration, then we're going to add it. We're going to say, okay, nums flag index. I mean, not add it, but we're going to override it, right? We're going to override the index at 1 in this case. So nums flag index is equal to nums at I. Now we're going to say flag index plus plus. We're going to move the index up, right? And we're going to say final length plus plus. Okay? So that's it. That's it pretty much of what we mentioned, right? If it's unique, it's gonna override that index because we're not iterating flag index. If it's not unique, it's not gonna override. But if it is unique, it's gonna override that index since we're not iterating flag index. Okay, so now what we have to return is for else. We're gonna return final length, right? And if I'm not missing anything, it should be good. Oh, numbers dot length equals 0. Boom. 1, 1, 2. Let's do a test case. 4, 4, 5, 7. So in this case, the answer should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The answer should be 5, and we got 5. We got the 5 unique elements, right? So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna be adding this to a new playlist. That way, you guys, it's gonna be easier for you guys to navigate through the channel. I'm gonna add this to the easy LeetCode interview questions playlist, and yeah, I'm gonna be uploading more content soon. Thank you for the emails, guys. Thank you for the messages. If you have any questions, any comments on how I coded, any comments at all, I'm always willing to learn. Always up for progress. I hope you guys enjoyed, and have a great night, guys.